So,
Do you guys have?
So we talked, and we aren't able to do the 25,000, but
Simply too little.
it's, and especially compared to other comparable, settlements that we've researched in Michigan. So the next number that we are gonna come back with is, 750,000.
For 5 years, or?
We can work out
We
the,
can work
out the plan, however,
We'd like to come to a number first, and then we can work out the payment plan.
I mean,
In the-
it couldn't
in
be
the-
anything,
in the best
you
interest
know,
of
it couldn't
parties.
be anything
you have to
like,
understand that too, for us, again, 750,000 is just as, unrealistic and unreasonable, you know, and considering our clients' income, it's very modest, and, you know, I mean, as a writer, he only makes, a pittance. And, you know, since his wife's business has been so damaged by the bad, reputation she's been getting from this accident, it's,
Like I said, they've really been affected by it, and I'm not comfortable, like, predicting if she's ever gonna make as much as she used to again, because you never know, like, how bad this is gonna affect her income. So we're just working from that point, from their new total yearly income, which is not much at all, considering their huge mortgage, which I'm not passing judgment.
Are you able to give us a number on what she's currently making? The
What was
water
it?
plan?
she's making 50,000 a year now,
and what about,
and he's making 35,000 a year,
Okay.
so,
so they're taking home, okay.
yes, so I just, as you can see, 750,000 just is not a reasonable number in terms of what they can even over 30 years, that would be impossible, you know?
But you did make a good point that he's got these kids, and we're willing to come up if I guess our client would have to suffer a little bit, and we would be willing maybe to come up to 20,000 a year.
For 5 years, so a total of 100,000.
Is that?
Well, we think, you mentioned suffering. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think the jury's really gonna care about the suffering. If your client makes $80,000 a year and you have a house, it could be perfectly reasonable that in our comparative negligence regime in Michigan, that even if our client was found 50% negligence and was awarded, say $500,000, then you could lose your house and get $250,000 from that.
There's, the house is not paid for in any way, that's not an asset on the books here. Like, they've just purchased the home, so they owe a huge chunk of money already on the home, and they're paying $4,100 a month for it.
That can go both ways too, if you think about it. If they're not gonna care that our client will lose the house, I don't think that they would care if your client couldn't go to college. And I think 20,000 a year could definitely pay for his college if he wanted to go.
Or pay for the basic necessities for the family, like
Kids, or
Just thinking about, what would happen if this would go to trial, looking at other comparable settlements, and the comparative negligence doctrine in Michigan, like Chris said, that even if, you had mentioned earlier that both parties were negligent in the fact that they were traveling over 45 miles an hour on the dune buggies, but even if they found, and I think that 500,000 seems to be a pretty modest settlement number, and they found our client to be 50% negligent, they would still award $250,000 to our client.
I don't know, but you're basing that on other cases, but in this case, really, there's no way to tell that our client was responsible at all for the death. And it could have just as easily been our client that died in the collision. it was just a really bad accident. And what I'm saying is, like, I'm not sure that a jury would really award you that much, you know, considering that they were both racing.
And especially since, I mean, I understand that your client does not remember that the dune buggy flipped over, but it did flip over, and there's no way to tell also, and that's a good, very, you know,
We really aren't even sure if the collision was in
Was the
fact
actual
what
cause of
caused
death.
the death. And
and it seems unlikely. I mean, people flipping over in vehicle, in an open off-road vehicle is very dangerous, as you know, you might surmise.
And like I said, it might just as easily have been our client that, you know, accidentally died here. And given that it was an accident and it wasn't done on purpose, and these guys were friends, I don't think it's fair to compare this to other wrongful death cases because
Well, we're looking at other, you know, negligence cases. I mean, we're not at all saying that this was something that was intentional, that your client had purposely
Right, of
anything
course.
like that. I mean, we acknowledge the fact that it was an accident, and it was, but, you know, if the roles had been reversed, we would be sitting on other sides of the table negotiating, you know, differently. But unfortunately, our client's wife or spouse was killed, and now we need to work something out. And it's basically figuring out what that number is gonna be, and
okay, I'm looking at it from the point of view of our client, and really from our point of view, it's about how much is it worth to him to not go to court, because really he sees it as an accident. It was nobody's fault, and he shouldn't be held responsible when really there's no fault. So from that point of view, it's just about how much is he willing to give up out of his yearly income to avoid, you know, all the hassle of trial and everything. I'm sure that your client is just as willing to not have to go through all of that and have this bad blood between them now that, you know.
I mean, after being friends for so long, you know.
Yeah.
God bless you.
So really when I say that, it's not because I feel like, you know, it's not because I don't feel that this life is worth so little. It's because I'm looking at it from the point of view of my client, where really he's not at fault. You know, we can't really say that he's at fault here. There was no person at fault really. So I feel like it'd be really unfair to treat him as if he was, you know, in fact the cause in any way, or, you know, that he's responsible for the death in any way of Jordan.
And, you know, if we had to go to trial and, you know, we went through the process, there is a possibility that we could find that the proximate cause was, you know, your client driving,
Sure.
following too closely. Which wouldn't just be a no fault situation.
Sure, that's the possibility.
And, you know, as much as our client does not want to go to trial, I think that he would be willing to do it if the number didn't go higher than 100,000. As much as he wants to avoid doing that, I think that he's, and according to the information that we have, confident that we could find proximate cause in the accident. So
I mean, I do believe that
That's a good possibility. I'm not saying that's not. However, it's still a case of both parties being negligent.
it's
Well,
definitely.
I mean, even if our party was say 90% negligent, we could still recover 10% of whatever the jury gave us.
Right.
Yeah.
But you could also recover nothing if they decide that it was.
100% negligent. True, but I mean,
And I mean, also additionally, when, you know, who knows, they could find that it's not reasonable that the collision caused the death, and then in fact the overturning of the buggy, which was, you know, I mean, unfortunately, I understand that the tumbleweed was obviously very scary, but, you
we
know,
like to refer to it as debris.